The wind howled across the frozen fields. Eli pulled his thick coat tighter. Snow bit at his face as he walked down the old path near the woods. The storm was growing stronger and he still had to check the fence near the south side of his farm. The sky was gray. The land was white. Nothing moved on until he heard it, a sound faint like metal scraping and something else. A voice. He stopped. "Hello," he called out. No answer, but the sound came again, softer, a weak cry. He stepped off the path and moved toward the noise. Snow came up to his knees. After a few minutes he saw something, a broken shape half buried under snow and ice. Pieces of metal, like armor or maybe parts of a ship. And under it, a body, tall, thin, dark purple skin, almost black, covered in blood and ice. Not human. Eli's heart pounded. He had seen aliens before, from far away, on the news, in the cities. Never like this, never so close. The creature, no, she was barely breathing. Her face was strange, sharp with deep eyes that opened slowly as he approached. She growled weakly. Her arms twitched. Her legs didn't move at all. "Easy," Eli said, raising his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't understand, of course, but she didn't attack either. He looked at her wounds, burn marks, cut. Something had hurt her badly. Her ribs showed through her thin skin. One of her hands was twisted, like it had been broken long ago and never healed. She wasn't just injured, she was starved. Eli could walk away. This wasn't his problem, but something inside him wouldn't let him leave. He took off his scarf and wrapped it around her shoulder. "Come on, let's get you out of this snow." It wasn't easy. She was heavier than she looked, and the snow made every step harder. But Eli was strong, a farmer's strength. He dragged her back to the house step by step, breath by breath. Inside, the fire was burning. Warmth wrapped around them as Eli placed her near the hearth. She shivered. Her glowing eyes scanned the room like a wild animal. Eli brought water. She didn't drink at first. Then she took the bowl and gulped it down fast, spilling half on the floor. He cooked meat. She didn't wait. She grabbed it with her hands, tearing into it like she hadn't eaten in weeks. Eli watched. She was strange, ugly maybe, to some, but her eyes, they were not empty. They were tired, scared, alive. Later, she fell asleep near the fire, curled up like a child. That night, Eli sat on the edge of his bed, listening to the wind outside. What had he done? He had brought a dangerous, unknown creature into his home. He should be afraid, but he wasn't. The next morning, she was awake before him, sitting near the window, staring out at the snow. She didn't speak, but she watched everything. Every move Eli made. She flinched when he got close. She didn't like mirrors. When she saw her reflection, she growled low, like she hated the things she saw. She didn't speak English, but she understood tone. She knew when Eli was calm. She knew when he was angry, like when she tried to eat raw meat from the trash. "I'll cook it," he said, holding up a hand. "Just wait." She looked at him, then sat on the floor and waited. It was a small thing, but it meant something. Days passed. She stayed by the fire most of the time. Eli made a bed for her on the floor with blankets. She didn't talk, but she made soft sounds sometimes, whispers in her own language. One evening, Eli gave her paper and a pencil just to see. She took it. Her hands shook at first, but slowly she drew something. A cage, chains, a ship, and a human holding a whip. Eli stared at it for a long time. "You were someone's prisoner." She didn't answer, but her hand pointed to the figure in the cage. Then to herself. Her eyes looked up at Eli, and for the first time, he saw tears that night. Eli found her standing beside his bed, silent, just watching him sleep. He woke with a start. "What are you doing?" She didn't move, didn't blink, just looked at him like she was trying to understand. Then, in a voice that sounded broken and dry, like it hadn't been used in years, she whispered one word, single quotes, "T-O. Hurt me." Eli's breath caught in his throat. "I won't," he said softly. "I promise." She blinked slowly, then walked back to her place by the fire, and for the first time, Eli realized she wasn't just a creature, she was a person, a broken one, but still a person. It started with a noise, not loud, not angry, just chewing. Eli opened his eyes. The sun hadn't risen yet. His room was cold, quiet, but not silent. Something was eating. He got out of bed, slowly, walked barefoot across the wooden floor. Every step creaked. He reached the kitchen doorway and stopped. There she was, the alien girl, kneeling on the floor beside the trash bin, her long fingers digging into the cold, wet mess. Bones, raw meat scraps, old bread. She was stuffing it into her mouth like a starving dog. Eli didn't speak right away. He just watched. The firelight from the main room led her back. Her spine curved as she crouched low. Her black hair hung in messy strands, stuck to her face. She didn't notice him at first. When she did, she froze. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Eli said, calm and soft, "You don't have to eat that." She blinked. Her face had no shame, no fear, just confusion. He pointed to the stove. "I can cook. You want warm food." She looked at the trash, then at him, slowly, like a test. She dropped the bone in her hand. That morning, Eli cooked eggs. She watched every move. Not like someone learning, like someone judging. Measuring him, she sat on the floor, not the chair when he gave her the plate. She didn't use the fork. She grabbed the food with her hands, eating fast, licking her fingers, like a wild animal. But her eyes never left him. Even when she ate, she watched. He tried again with the notebook, handed her a pencil. She held it strangely, like she barely remembered how to use her fingers. Still, she drew, not cages this time. This time she drew his face. It was rough, childlike, but it was clearly him. His beard, his eyes, even his warm coat. Then she pointed to it, then to him. And then she drew a second shape, a shadow behind him, something tall, with red eyes. He looked at it for a long time. "What is that?" he asked. She didn't answer, but her hand trembled as she drew one more thing. A human hand, holding a chain. Days passed. She never told him her name, but Eli began calling her the quiet one. She didn't mind. He watched her, just as she watched him. She didn't sleep. Like humans, she stayed awake most of the night, staring into the fire or out the window. She flinched at loud sounds. She never let him get too close, but little by little, things changed. She stopped eating from the trash. She started using the spoon one day. She cleaned the floor without him asking. And once, just once, she laughed. It was short, strange, like she didn't remember how to do it, but it was a laugh. That night, Eli sat beside her by the fire. "You're not a thing," he said. "You know that, right?" She looked at him. Her face said nothing, but her eyes, they blinked fast, like she was trying to hold back something later. While Eli slept, something woke him. He opened his eyes. His room was dark, quiet, except she was there again, standing by his bed, just watching him. Her face calm, her arms loose at her sides, not afraid, not angry. Just still. Eli sat up. "Why do you keep doing that?" She didn't speak. Then she did something strange. She reached out, not to hurt but to touch his blanket, just the corner, like she was checking it, like she was curious. "I'm not going to hurt you," he whispered. "You're safe here." For the first time her mouth moved, not much, just one soft word, broken, safe. Then she left the room, silent as smoke. The next morning, Eli brought out an old music player. He pressed play. Soft piano music filled the room. She froze, her eyes wide. Then slowly she sat down, her head tilted, her fingers twitched. She didn't understand the words, but the music. It made her close her eyes, and then, in the quiet, she whispered something. One word, not in English, but Eli heard it, and he felt something cold crawl down his spine, because the word, whatever it meant, sounded like a name that didn't belong to a free person. It belonged to a slave. She screamed in her sleep, not loud but sharp, like something tearing inside her. Eli rushed in. She was curled under the table, shaking, her hands covering her head. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't awake. She was somewhere else. He knelt beside her. "It's okay. You're here. You're safe." She didn't hear him. Her lips moved fast, speaking in a language he didn't know. The sounds were broken, choked. Then suddenly she went still, and whispered one word, "burn." Later, when she calmed down, Eli brought her warm tea. She didn't take it. She just stared into the fire, like it held answers. He sat nearby and didn't speak. That's how they talked now, without words. After a while, she picked up the notebook again, the same one she used to draw, but this time she didn't draw pain. Not cages, not chains. She drew a tree, tall with wide leaves, a moon, a river, and under the tree, a shape, small, young, smiling. Eli leaned closer. "Is that you?" She didn't answer, but she turned the page and drew again. This time the same girl locked in a cage, and next to it, a human in a white coat, holding something, a blade. She pointed to the figure in the coat, then to the scar on her neck. It was small, but deep, old, like something had been cut or taken. Her voice, Eli's stomach twisted. "They did that too." She looked at him, then did something new. She wrote a word. In clear, rough letters. "Slave." That evening, she sat closer to the fire than usual. Eli gave her space, but something was different tonight. She seemed tired, not from hunger, from remembering. He handed her a piece of cooked meat. She took it with both hands but didn't eat right away. She looked at him, then pointed to herself, then said slowly, "S.A. Lee." "Yeah." Eli blinked. "Your name?" She nodded once. He smiled, said Leah. The way he said it made her eyes soften, not with happiness, with something older, like grief that had stopped being sharp but still lived inside her. That night the rain came, hard and loud. It hit the roof like stones. Salia stood by the window, watching the sky flash. Eli was making tea when she suddenly turned and said, "Water, fire, metal, no air." He looked up. "What?" She touched her chest. "Ship crash." Her English was broken, but clear enough that she was telling him what happened. "Escape," she whispered. "Jump, alone. Snow, pain." Eli nodded slowly. "You ran from them." She nodded back. "They find again." Her hand shook. Then she looked at him, eyes sharp. "You're dead." It hit him like cold ice. "They'll kill me because I helped you." She nodded. "They track slave chip." In back, she turned and lifted her shirt. There on her upper spine was a small metal piece half under her skin. She tapped it, then mimed a beep, a signal they know where you are. Eli whispered, "Soon," she said, then looked at the fire again. "Soon." Eli didn't sleep that night. He sat at the table with his shotgun nearby. She stayed by the window watching. The sky, not hiding, not running, just waiting, as if she'd done this before. As if running from death was a normal part of life at sunrise. Eli found her outside, kneeling by the snow. She had dug a hole, not deep, just enough. He stepped closer. "What is that?" She didn't answer. She took a rock and smashed something small in her hand. It sparked metal pieces, scattered into the snow. Then she dropped it in the hole. The chip she had pulled it out herself. Eli stared. "That could have killed you." She looked at him, and for the first time smiled, just a little better. "Me, then you." Back inside, Eli gave her a blanket. She didn't sit on the floor. This time she sat beside him, close enough to touch. He didn't move away, and neither did she. He watched her close her eyes, and for the first time since she arrived, she slept without shaking. The chickens were screaming. Eli dropped his mug. It shattered against the floor. He grabbed his coat, ran outside, shotgun in hand, but it wasn't a fox, not a wolf. They weren't running from something, they were reacting to something. Above, the sky, a slow hum filled the cold morning air. It wasn't loud, but it vibrated in his chest. When Eli looked up, his stomach twisted. A dark shape was gliding across the sky, smooth, silent, nothing human. A ship, not crashing, not damaged, searching, inside the house. Salia was already up. She stood near the window, eyes narrowed, body stiff, like an animal about to run or fight. "They're here," she said, her voice low and dry. Eli loaded the shotgun. "We'll hide you, basement." Now, she didn't move. "They smell heat," she said. "Bodies, signals. If they scan, they know I'm here." Eli looked at her, really looked. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't crying. She was ready, like she had done this before. "How long do we have?" he asked. Salia looked at the ship disappearing over the forest. "Hours," she said. "Maybe less." The basement was cold and dry, full of old tools and storage boxes. Eli moved crates aside to clear space behind the furnace. It wasn't perfect, but it was hidden from scans. Mostly, Salia stepped into the dark without a word before closing the door. Eli handed her something, a small music player, the one she liked. No words passed between them, just a look then. Darkness. They came just before sundown. Not soldiers, not loud. 3 figures, dressed in black, no footsteps, no sound. They moved like shadows, scanning the house with smooth silver tools. Their eyes glowed behind masks. Eli answered the door with a tired smile and a fake limp. "Evening, you boys lost." They said nothing. One pointed a device at Eli's chest. "Warm signature." 2. Eli laughed. "Yeah, me and my furnace." One walked past him. Straight inside. The next 5 minutes were quiet. Too quiet. They scanned the living room, the walls, the kitchen. One stopped near the fireplace and looked at the floor. The exact spot where Salia had once slept. "You live alone?" one asked. Eli didn't blink. "Always have any visitors?" "Just a moose. 2 weeks ago." None of them laughed. One moved toward the basement door. Eli stepped in front of it. "That's my tool room." The figure looked at him, long, then spoke into a small device. "Nothing here." Pulled back. The others left without a word. No goodbyes, no threats, nothing. After 10 long minutes, Eli opened the basement door. "SA, single quotes, SI, single quotes, SI." Stood there, pale still, but alive. "They didn't find you," Eli said. "Yet." Night. Neither of them slept. They sat near the fire. Salia spoke first. "Eli," she said, testing his name on her tongue. He looked at her. She rarely used names. "You saved me again." He shrugged. "You saved yourself. I just gave you a place." She was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "That's more than anyone ever gave." She took off the cloth she always wore around her neck. For the first time, Eli saw all the marks, burns, scars, a branding symbol, small, almost healed, but forever there. It made him sick. He reached out, slowly, and placed his hand over it. Not to touch, but to cover it, to give her a moment of peace. "I'm sorry," he said. Her eyes filled, not with tears, but something deeper. "I was not born weak," she said. "They made me this." He looked at her, steady. "You're not weak." She leaned in just a little. "Then let me fight." He blinked. "What?" "I stay," she said. "No more running. They'll come back." "Salia, I know," she said. "That's why I stay." Outside, the snow fell again, soft, silent, but not peaceful, because now both of them knew the real war had just begun. The first thing she touched was a flower. It was small, wild, growing through a crack in the stone. Behind Eli's house, Salia crouched beside it like it was something strange, dangerous, beautiful. She didn't pick it. She only stared. Then, gently, 2 fingers brushed the petals. She pulled back like it might bite, but it didn't, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. Eli saw it from the window. He didn't say anything. He just let her have the moment. Moments like that were rare for her. And maybe for him too. The next few days were quiet. No ships, no visitors, no fear, just time. Eli worked the land, repaired the fence, cleaned the barn, and Salia helped, not with words, but with action. She moved heavy tools like they were nothing. She fixed a broken water pipe with sharp hands and sharper thinking when a hawk came too close to the chicken coop. She hissed at it. It didn't come back. One afternoon Eli made soup. He handed her the bowl. This time she didn't sit on the floor. She sat at the table opposite him. Like an equal, she ate slowly now, carefully with a spoon. She looked at the wooden bowl, then at him. This soft, she said. He blinked. You mean warm? She shook her head. Warm as skin. This soft inside, he smiled. You mean comfort, she nodded. I feel. She searched for the word, touching her chest. Warm, she whispered again. Later that night, the fire was low. Salia stood beside it. She didn't look at Eli when she asked the question. Why did you help me? He looked up from his chair. You needed help. Many do, she said. But humans don't help things that look like me, Eli thought. About that, you didn't look like a thing, he said. You looked like a person who forgot she was one. She turned to him slowly. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. Instead, she whispered then, thank you for helping me remember. She walked away out of that not to the basement, not to the floor, to the door of his room. She stood there, silent, waiting. Eli didn't move. He didn't invite her in. He didn't tell her to stop. He just said, you don't owe me anything. And Salia nodded. I know, she said. That's why I stay. But she didn't enter. Not yet. She simply lay on the couch that night, but not alone anymore. The door between them stayed open. That was enough. The next morning, Eli found her outside again, but this time she was planting something. The flower, she had moved it carefully to a small patch of soft earth near the porch. It looked almost too fragile to live, but she had hope. You think it'll grow? He asked. Salia didn't answer at first. Then she looked at him. Not all things grow back, she said, but some try. They sat on the steps together drinking tea. Two survivors, no chains, no weapons, just silence. Safe for now, but far above, hidden in clouds. A distant ship blinked once, then disappeared. She found his jacket before she found him. It was lying on the porch railing, cold, damp with morning. She picked it up carefully, pressing the fabric to her face. It smelled like firewood, soil, and something else. Safe, she wrapped it around her shoulders. Eli was in the barn, fixing a broken latch. He turned when she walked in, wearing the coat. It hung loose on her sleeves, too long. But she wore it like armored, like a choice. You cold? He asked. She shook her head. No, she said, just yours. That evening a ship landed in the far fields, silent, smooth, not human, but not the enemy either. A different kind. This time they didn't hide. The visitor stepped out alone, female, humanoid. Her name was Reva, an envoy from a neutral alien colony that had heard of Salia's escape through encoded channels. She bowed slightly to Eli, but looked directly at Salia. We offer you safety, Reva said. Far from here. And you name a place to start again. Salia didn't speak. Reva continued. They still hunt you, you know that. Stay, and you die. Eli stood beside her, saying nothing. He didn't want her to go, but he wouldn't beg. This had to be her choice. Salia turned to Reva. I have a name, she said softly. I don't need a new one. Reva blinked. Then you choose the human. Salia looked at Eli. He didn't look heroic or strong. He was tired, dirty from the barn, holding a cracked mug of tea, but he had given her something no other world had offered. Peace. Yes, she said. I stay. Reva left without arguing. Some choices don't need approval. As the ship disappeared, Salia stood beside Eli. And the wind. You know they'll come, he said. She nodded. I know. He looked at her, serious. They won't just come for you. I'll protect you, she said. He smiled a little sad. I was supposed to protect you. You did, she answered. By letting me be more than broken. That night they sat by the fire. No fear, no guards, just the sound of rain tapping on the windows. She touched his hand first, not by accident, not in fear this time. It was want. I don't understand everything about humans, she said, but I know what you gave me. Eli didn't speak. He just let her fingers close around his. You took me in when I was a thing, she said, a shadow. She leaned closer, but now, I am a person. She placed his hand on her cheek, and I am yours. They didn't kiss that night. Not yet. Some things aren't rushed. Some wounds heal slow, but she didn't sleep on the couch. She lay beside him, not touching, just breathing like people do when they know they're no longer alone. The next morning, the message came, short, cold, mechanical, a repeating signal on Eli's radio. We know what you're hiding. It played every hour, over and over. Eli stared at the speaker, heart pounding. Salia stood behind him. She picked up his shotgun and handed it to him. I'm not afraid, she said. He looked at her and realized something. Neither was he. She woke before the sun. Her eyes opened in the dark, not from fear, not from nightmares, just awake. Beside her, Eli slept. His hand rested gently against her shoulder, like he'd fallen asleep protecting her. She looked at his face, rough, human, imperfect. Perfect. Outside. The sky burned orange. Not sunrise. Engines. She stood up and walked to the window. The enemy ship had returned, bigger this time. No search, no warning that it had come to take her. Or kill them both. Eli was up in seconds. He didn't ask what was happening. He already knew. He handed her the same coat she had worn days ago, but this time she didn't put it on. She stood in her true skin, marked, scarred, strong. I'm not hiding, she said, not anymore. They stood at the edge of the field as the ship lowered. SA, single quotes SI, single quotes LIYA gripped the old staff. She had carved herself from metal and wood. It pulsed faintly. Powered by salvaged alien tech in her own hands, Eli held his shotgun, ancient by comparison, but still trusted. From the ship, figures descended. 5. All armed, but none saw fear in the two standing before them, just fire. The leader spoke. Return what is ours, the asset. Eli stepped forward. She's not yours. She's not an it. Her name is Salia. The soldiers raised their weapons. So be it. The leader said. The first shot never landed. SA Leia moved faster than before. She was no longer starving, no longer afraid. She struck the first soldier hard, her staff lighting up on impact. Eli shot another, dropping him in the snow. It wasn't a long battle, it wasn't easy, but it was clear. They were fighting for something, and that makes all the difference. When it was over, the ship was in flames. Only one soldier crawled away. Wounded Sil stood over him. The soldier looked up and hissed, "You were made to obey." She didn't reply. She turned her back. That was answer enough. Later, Eli stood at the porch, breathing hard, blood on his hands, smoke in his lungs. Salia walked up and stood beside him. For a long time they said nothing. Then she asked, "Are you still afraid?" Eli smiled, eyes still on the horizon. No. He turned to her. "I'm tired, but not afraid." She nodded once. "I was cold my whole life," she said, "even in the sun." He looked at her. "You're not cold now." She reached for his hand, placed it over her heart. "No," she whispered. "I'm warm now." That night they burned the enemy gear. All of it. Salia tossed her old collar into the fire. Last she watched it melt, not with hate, with peace. Then she walked back inside. The house was quiet. She stood in the bedroom doorway. This time, there was no question, no distance. She walked to the bed and slipped under the covers. Beside him, he didn't ask, she didn't explain. She simply whispered, "Now let me warm your bed forever, human." Eli pulled her close, and for the first time in both their lives, there was no running. No hiding, no fear. Just two souls who had found each other not through war, but through the choice to stay.